It's become quite apparent now that Gavin Newsom has been going off the rails to a different degree now in 2025, to the point that it's beginning to sound utterly ridiculous. Now, one thing about Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is that we already know that he is beginning to double down on really, taking shots at JD Vance, taking shots at the entire Trump presidency, to the point where it's beginning to actually go out of bounds. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now look, I have been very vocal about this before in the past, but I have been a very big critic of Gavin Newsom and what he's been doing with the state of California over there for the past several years now. And look, whether you dislike or like the guy, that is completely welcome here below in the comments. Look, that's all about being human. We have differing opinions. But focusing on Gavin Newsom in isolation and what he had to say about JD Vance after his Disneyland vacation and spending time in California, well, it actually got ugly. Now, one thing about Gavin Newsom is that we know that he's beginning to get more and more defensive as the weeks roll by, because I think that we're getting closer to the fact that 2026 is beginning to actually sound more like it's just around the corner, right? We know that the midterms are looming next year. During the later half of 2026, that's going to be a very big deal. However, Gavin Newsom, alright, we know that he's been getting very much angry, getting very bitter toward not just JD Vance, but also toward the Trump presidency, toward those that support President Trump and JD Vance, and this is where it really hits rock bottom for sure for the governor. Now, with Governor Gavin Newsom already going in a downward spiral in a desperate move and attempt to put himself in the middle of Hollywood to improve his popularity, one major development that is going on now involves Gavin Newsom's recent comments toward JD Vance, again in the aftermath of his previous comments about his Disney vacation. Now, Gavin recently delivered the following. Look, I think JD Vance is a traitor to this country. He is one who is not only encouraging President Trump to make some of the worst decisions for our country, but also for democracy. This is a man who once criticized Disney for embracing a so-called woke agenda, yet here he is on a Disney vacation. Do you not see the hypocrisy there? How absurd that makes you look as the vice president. And what vice president is doing, wasting his valuable time anyway on a Disney vacation? This goes to show you that Trump and his entire hand-picked team, they are not in it for American citizens. They are in it for themselves, for their own benefit. Mr. Vance is only contributing more to our failing democracy. Seriously, think about it. If you have Trump going golfing and now you have Vance going to Disneyland, when they should be working 24/7 trying to solve our greatest problems both within our country and internationally. This is a disgrace of JD Vance to show just how hypocritical he really is. If you want to criticize California and criticize Disney, that's one thing. But to then come here to our beautiful state of California and to go to Disney, that just shows us that anything Trump says, anything that JD says, is never serious and never coming from their core beliefs. This is why we can't trust this presidency and their actions that are impacting so many great, hardworking American citizens. We need to shape up and to shape up fast. 2026 is going to be very crucial and a very crucial year for all of us. We need to take back the House and the Senate for our country to survive. It's time that we as Americans take a stand up against men like Trump and Vance. They are not in it for American people. Period. They are in it for themselves. JD Vance, to him, I say stop going on vacations. And to Trump, stop golfing. And especially stop being a hypocrite, because now you don't have a right to say anything negative about our beautiful state, California. Now guys, let me just say one thing about, Gavin Newsom here. Now, we already know that he's trying to affiliate himself with many different Hollywood studios. We already know that he's been trying to implant himself in Netflix, with, of course, the Meghan Markle series with Love Meghan. That so far is becoming a big drama piece. The other thing is that he also wants to actually become the center of attention within the film industry to really shine a light on himself as the governor. And there's a lot of plans in the making right now that we'll talk more about in the coming days. But I think that's all going to backfire. The last thing that you want to do as a governor, especially if you do have plans to run for the 2028 election, to run for president there, the last thing you want to do is affiliate yourself with Hollywood, especially in the state that it's in right now. Regardless of the fact that you're witnessing a slow turn of the tide within the film industry, it's still heavily tainted based on what happened for the past 7, 8, 9 years. Now again, we know that Gavin Newsom Alright, he tends to go off the rails every now and again, and I think that this really hits a peak level, right? We know that, look, people have differing opinions when it comes to politics, that's all fine and all, but Gavin Newsom, I think, is really going out of bounds here. He's really going out of the boundaries here of really acting professional and really just trying to actually keep his composure. He can't seem to do that, and that's just typical Gavin Newsom. Now again, this is where it really begins to pick up. He goes on to actually allude further. The more that we call these people out in this administration, he says, the more leverage that we have for next year. So we have to keep things going. We have to keep doubling down and to continue our efforts to keep democracy together. I would not be too shocked if Vance has another vacation prepared already. This presidency just lies to everyone. All they do is lie to American citizens, and especially to many who live in the great state of California. It's up to us to win the midterms. If we don't, I think society is over for us in the United States. There would just be no hope for anyone ever again. We would never win again. They want to criticize my work and how I am doing things here in California. Just look at JD and Trump, endlessly golfing and now going to Disney. It's appalling. So again, we know that, both JD Vance and other members within the Trump administration, they also have been very vocal and critical about how Disney has been handling their entertainment. That's fine and all. But one thing for sure is that Gavin Newsom, alright, we know that he can take the fact that, people like JD Vance every once in a while, they'll go on a vacation here and there, they'll do a little thing. It just goes to show how he himself is hypocritical, because we've seen him golfing, we've seen him doing things before in the past, on his own time as the governor of California, so he really is in no place to say things like that as far as I see things. Now look, we know that Gavin Newsom is trying to desperately actually keep himself at the center of attention. That's why he's becoming more and more vocal, especially now as we are past the middle point of 2025. He knows that things are looming for 2026, and there are actual, things actually happening for Gavin Newsom's plans to run for the presidential run in 2028. Now look, we know at the same exact time, JD Vance actually did fire back at Gavin Newsom multiple times over the course of the past 6 months. I mean, they've been having quite a number of back and forth scenarios, that's for sure. One thing I would like to say about this, though, is that when you have, of course, Disney's Bob Iger, the CEO, and Gavin Newsom having a lot of conversations, it just goes to show you that there are things happening between Gavin and Disney. We talked about this before, about how Gavin wants to affiliate himself with the Disney company, with the Walt Disney Company, to really kind of shine a light on himself as the governor. They're trying to prepare something very substantial for his, of course, future career in politics, quote unquote, and we'll have a lot more to talk about that and his growing friendship with Bob Iger and exactly what's going on there. But what's interesting about this yet again, Gavin Newsom going off the rails, he's really not coming across as professional saying stuff like this. I think that he should keep his composure a lot more and to just stay out of this. Now, look, we all know at the same exact time, Gavin Newsom is only actually decreasing in popularity and has been sharply declining over the years, and I would not be too shocked if, more people are going to be, repulsed by these recent comments about JD Vance. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.